when this region is pushing to be better than it was yesterday, when it's working to inspire the leaders of tomorrow, when it comes together to celebrate its communities of devoted individuals, that's opportunity. It's magic, just like our desert sunsets. High Desert Opportunity Summit is the chance for local communities to come together to showcase exciting and upcoming opportunities. It won't be like last year, no, but nothing's like last year. We know this. We aren't afraid of it. We're embracing it, adapting. This year, we're focusing. Welcome to the High Desert Opportunity Summit. Today, we're focusing on all things high desert. Industry insights from the education, transportation, and healthcare sectors, plus so much more. Today, we'll show just how education fuels economic development. Get ready. Get set. Get focused.
Hi, I'm Craig Garrick. Welcome. I'm the founder and CEO of ComAv at the Southern California Logistics Airport. We're a company that manages commercial aircraft, and we welcome you. Welcome to the 2020 High Desert Opportunity Summit, Finding Focus, brought to you by the Southern California Logistics Airport. We want to thank you for tuning in today, and it is our hope you'll gain insight along with useful and relevant information to guide you through the next year, persuade you to get involved, and inspire others to take pride in this place that we call home. You can feel good about your investment today, as all the proceeds from this event will benefit the Victor Valley College Foundation. The VVC Foundation has been a resource development arm of the Victor Valley College for over 45 years and continues to support the college and its mission of student success. Today you'll learn more of just what the High Desert has to offer. With our theme of Finding Focus, we'll aim to help you focus on what really matters to you. For many of us, it's the community, our families, our students, and everyone who helps to contribute to the well-being of our region. We have so much in store for you, from a tour of SCLA.
Welcome to ComAv, Hangar 681.
To a Victor Valley College update.
I'm Dan Walden. I'm the Superintendent President for Victor Valley College.
To panels that dive into the implications of COVID-19 on local education and healthcare.
Hi everyone, Fred Hunter here.
To an economic forecast.
Hello, High Desert Opportunity Summit.
It's going to be quite the ride. Let's get started.
Did you know that 4 Fortune 500 companies operate here at the Southern California Logistics Airport?
Hello, I'm Victorville Mayor Gloria Garcia. On behalf of the City of Victorville and SCLA, I am honored to introduce the economic speaker for today's summit. Christopher Thornburg is Director of the Center for Economic Forecasting and Development with the UC Riverside School of Business and Development and founding partner of Beacon Economics. He is an expert in economic revenue forecasting, regional economics, economic policy, and the labor and real estate markets. He has consulted for private industries, cities, counties, and public agencies. Thornburg is nationally known for forecasting the subprime mortgage market crash that began in 2007, and he is one of the few economists on record to have predicted the global recession that followed. Please join me in welcoming Christopher Thornburg to our High Desert Opportunity Summit.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Chris Thornburg. I'm the director of the UC Riverside Center for Economic Forecasting and Development, and I am pleased to be with you here at the High Desert Opportunity Summit in concert, of course, with the Victor Valley College. When you think about economic development, of course, the health of the underlying economy is of paramount importance. After all, understanding those opportunities is dependent on what is happening out there in the rest of the nation and, of course, around the globe today. And these are not normal times. We, of course, are still in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, a disease that has hit over 40 million people across the globe, has created over 1 million deaths. 20% of all cases and deaths are right here inside the United States. And our hearts go out to those families who've lost loved ones as a result of this terrible disease. But of course, our question is not so much about the disease itself, but where is the economy heading? And on this basis, there have been some truly eye-popping numbers out there. For example, from the fourth quarter of last year to the second quarter of this year, you saw real GDP decline by almost 11%. To put that in context, during the Great Recession, you only saw the economy decline by 6% from the first quarter of 2008 to the second quarter of 2009. But with that in mind, again, it's important to recognize that this is not a traditional type of business cycle. And therefore, as eye-popping as these numbers are, they don't necessarily represent the same sort of thing they may have in past business cycles. And that, of course, brings us to the most important part, which is where from here. And this boils down to the U versus V debate. Those in the U camp, or whatever they want to use, whether it's a Nike swoosh or a square root sign or the W or the L or whatever clever sort of symbol they may come up with, these are folks who believe the damage to the economy is so profound that it will take literally years for the U.S. economy to get back to a normal footing. UC Riverside is not in that camp. We are of the camp that you might call the V camp, which says, of course, that the economy will rebound rapidly once we get full control over this virus. And indeed, I will tell you that not only is this V camp, I think the V call are correct, the data to date has largely backed up our reasonably optimistic view of things. Now, what I want to get into, though, is talking a little bit more about that U camp. And you've seen all the crazy headlines, right? Scar labor market for the next decade, worse than almost as bad as the Great Depression. Government stimulus has come up short. Here's one of my favorite quotes. This has morphed into a depression-like crisis. Wow. Big words, and candidly words that have no basis in reality. Anybody who thinks this is depression, I want to put you in a time machine and put you back in 1931 to see what a depression truly looks like. Now, it isn't to say this isn't tough times, but it isn't the same as past cycles. Now, what kind of negativity is out there? Here's one way of thinking about it, the output gap. This is the CBO's forecast. And to be clear what the output gap is, because this is a little different than a typical forecast side, this is the gap between what the U.S. economy can produce versus what it is actually producing. Go back to the Great Recession, the worst recession in the post-World War II period. We know about the 6 quarters down, but what was really painful about the Great Recession was the fact that after we hit bottom, it still took us 7 years to fully recover, to get back to potential economic output. A very, very painful circumstance driven by the nature of that particular downturn. That is to say, it was a downturn that happened after the collapse of the massive subprime bubble that so overheated the U.S. economy and U.S. housing markets in the years running up to the Great Recession. When you think about the kind of pain that comes after the collapse of a bubble, you can understand why it took so long to heal from that. But let's fast forward to where we are right now. The CBO is predicting something very similar. They're talking about the U.S. taking 5 or 6, maybe even 7 years to get back to normal levels of economic output. It looks a lot like the Great Recession. But you know what this is? This is the general fighting the last war. In too many ways, people are saying the last recession was bad, ergo this one must be bad. And by the way, we heard a lot of that at the beginning of the last recession, when everybody said, hey, the last 2 recessions weren't bad, ergo this one isn't going to be bad. No, every recession is different. It's caused by different things, and it has a different type of pattern of recovery as a result of that. This is not the Great Recession, and it's going to come back much quicker. Now, why do we think that? And of course, how do you think about this overall recovery? Well, here's the first thing. First step, of course, the recession itself. Remember, during the Great Recession, that was a 6-quarter episode from peak to trough. Well, this recession is the deepest in U.S. economic history. However, as you will see shortly, it was also the shortest. The peak of economic activity occurred in February of this year. Believe it or not, the trough of economic activity occurred in April. And since then, the U.S. economy has already been bouncing back at a relatively rapid pace. Now, we are in recovery. We're in part stage 1 of recovery. Recovery stage 1, by the way, is learning to live with the virus. The pain of the economic downturn at the beginning of this whole thing was driven a lot by uncertainty. We didn't know what was happening. We didn't understand the risk. We didn't understand how to operate our businesses remotely. We didn't understand as consumers how to go out and buy products when all these stores are shut down and we're afraid of catching this disease. But mitigation is a huge part of human nature. And one of the things that too many forecasters forgot about is that people learn how to deal with things, even under the toughest circumstances. And that's exactly what we saw, an enormous bounce back in economic activity already, despite the fact that we had the second surge in cases. The second stage, by the way, is the containing of the disease. Because while the economy is bouncing back, we are learning to mitigate. The economy cannot go back 100% until, of course, we get full control of the disease. And in this one, we are not there yet. We've had a lot of really muddled policy. And I would argue that the globe has had a lot of muddled policy. It isn't true that Europe is right and we're wrong. Rather, how to handle this virus involves a lot of complicated conversations about what needs to be done and what isn't terribly helpful. And in these rarefied political times, it's hard to have these conversations. And as such, we haven't done a very good job, and we're still dealing with the presence of the virus. But we will get control over this over the course of the next 4 or 5 months, and then we get to the last stage of recovery, the return to normality. Now, yet again, you think of folks or these you folks who are talking about how long and painful this is going to be. This goes back to the idea that they think that this is a great recession type scenario. But as I already noted, it is not. There is no collapsing financial bubble. We went into this pandemic with actually a fundamentally one of the healthiest economies we've had in over 30 years. The result of that, plus, of course, the massive amount of government stimulus that is still yet to take effect, well, that's, of course, in the offing, and that will help us, again, bounce back quickly. Problem here is I would actually go far as to suggest that there's been too much government stimulus coming both from the federal government as well as the Federal Reserve. And the result of that is the potential for not only public debt crises, but also, of course, the potential for inflation. In a very real sense, we're all set up. We're primed to go for that return to normality. We need to take a step back and recognize that if you do too much, you can create problems you hadn't initially anticipated. So let's go through this real quickly. As noted, the last GDP number we have from the second quarter, and that was startling, a negative 32%. Big number to say the least. But as noted, take a look on the right-hand side. This is an estimate of monthly GDP, which you can do with some of our monthly numbers, as well as some imputations for data that's only available quarterly. And you can see how April was the absolute bottom of this thing, and the economy has actually come roaring back in a substantial way. Indeed, as of August, we are only about 3.7% below where we were pre-COVID. Pretty amazing to think 75% has already bounced back. And of course, once you get some September numbers there, including this morning's very good retail numbers, we're probably almost closer than that. Now, who's pushing this? Well, the same people who caused the downturn in the first place, the American consumer. And you can see on the left-hand side what kind of thing we're talking about here. Look, there's no doubt that spending on services, whether it's healthcare, whether it's spending on going out to hotels or taking that vacation overseas, these things still aren't happening. That's part of stage 2 recovery. However, other types of spending, particularly spending on goods, is roaring forward as people are finding new outlets for their wants to consume. And indeed, because of those bounce back in consumer spending and some of the economic activity following that, we are lining up for a 35 to 36% growth rate in the third quarter of this year. Again, the worst quarter ever is going to be followed by the best quarter ever. And ultimately, we're going to be pretty close to normality. Getting into those numbers, talk about retail sales. Retail sales were just released, and numbers are way above trend. Indeed, overall, on a year-over-year basis, we are actually up 5.4%. But this, of course, gets back to the idea that in the midst of this recovery, there are winners and there are losers. Who are the winners? Online. Non-store retailers have seen their sales explode by 24% on a year-over-year basis. This is one of the reasons why Jeff Bezos continues to get richer and richer. But it isn't just online. Hardware stores are doing great. Sport and hobby stores are doing great. Car sales are doing great. Supermarkets are doing great. Who's down there at the bottom? Well, restaurants, because a lot of them are either closed or, of course, still constrained by their ability to bring people in. Amazingly, though, only down 14%, which is better than one would have anticipated. Of course, gasoline and clothing also in those negative categories. But big numbers coming across. And what's interesting here is that this bounce back in spending has occurred despite the fact that the second surge in the virus was substantially worse than the first one. And it really was. You can see the numbers here. These are new cases as a per million people going back to really the start of the thing. And you can see the huge surge over the summer and the third surge we're seeing right now. Now, I'm being very careful about my words. I'm saying surges and not waves. The second wave of this virus, of course, is when the virus reemerges in a place it has already been. And for the most part, we are not seeing that. What we're seeing is the virus reemerge in places it hasn't been yet, and places that have been tremendously impacted are not seeing any major new rounds of cases. That's important because what it suggests is we just have to continue to work through, balance out the idea that certain portion of the population is going to have some exposure to this disease before you can get it truly under control. And Europe, which acted so ferociously at the start of this thing to get control over things, is now seeing yet again their second surge in the number of cases. You can see it here very well. For example, take a look at Florida and Arizona, two places that saw an enormous number of new cases over the course of the summer, but then without any kind of major draconian actions in terms of shutting down the economy, really overcame that, and you saw the number of new cases come down. Here in California, our surge over the summer was never as large as what happened in Florida, Arizona, but yet we too seem to be getting in front of this thing. And here's, of course, the data again per million people, and I'm comparing California to the U.S. overall. You can see whether it's new cases, hospitalizations, deaths, California seems to be on the other side of the situation right now. We seem to be getting things under control, and indeed, the state is opening up bit by bit. Most importantly, despite the second surge, no second downturn, no big pullback in consumer spending. We've mitigated. We've learned to live with the virus. Now we have to get the virus fully under control. And with the bounce back in consumer spending, all sorts of good things are happening. Retailers were completely caught off guard by the ferocity at which spending came back. We went from a very high inventory sales ratio at the beginning of this to a very low one because no one was prepared for the giant bounce back. But now they're trying to catch up. If you look at the ports are busy as all get out. Huge number of containers coming through the ports of Vail and Long Beach. And of course, those warehouses in the Inland Empire attached to that global commerce are also very, very busy. And industrial production has come back quite a bit too. But it's worth noting industrial production is not all the way back, in part because exports are still quite weak because the global economy is still struggling with things. Getting out to other better news about things. It isn't just consumers that came roaring back. Do you remember all those incredibly grim stories about the housing market? Home prices are going to fall. There's going to be 15 million people getting foreclosed on. Again, the general fighting the last war, talking about the housing market as if it was the housing market of 2007. It was not. The 2007 housing market was a disaster. Too many units. Prices have gone insanely high. Tons of bad debt. None of that has been in play over the course of the last decade. In many ways, this is one of the fundamentally healthiest housing markets. And then you add to that really low interest rates, a bunch of people with a bunch of money with nothing to do with it, and you have seen a housing market that has come roaring back in terms of sales, new home sales, existing home sales. Home prices are starting to accelerate. Here in California, we had that bad second quarter and a huge bounce back in the third quarter of the year. Month's supply of inventory in the state of California right now is the lowest it has been since 2004 and 5. And this one's not a bubble. This is just the oddity of the mismatch between demand, which is huge, and supply, which faded away because everybody was positive this was a depression type circumstance when it was not. And you can certainly see the bounce back here in terms of prices. You can see the bounce back here, including in the Inland Empire. Things are accelerating right now. Prices, believe it or not, median prices are up by 14.5% over the course of the last year. And permits are coming back as well after that, a little bit of a slowdown. But I got to tell you, we still need vastly more housing, particularly in the Inland Empire. This has been a centerpiece of our message for years now. And sadly, that message is being forgotten in the midst of all this panic. Now, as noted, not all sectors have come back equally. Some sectors will influence. For example, transportation spending, still half of what it was pre-pandemic. Restaurants and hotels, a quarter less. Even healthcare slowly reopening, down 12% from where it was pre-pandemic. But even in here, you see winners and losers. Take, for example, daily hotel occupancy rates. It's bounced back up to about 45% nationally. But when you look at this, you realize there are two kinds of hotels out there. There's the airplane hotels and the highway hotels. The airplane hotels are doing terrible because people aren't flying. They aren't flying to San Francisco for that wonderful honeymoon. They're not flying to Orange County to take the family to Disneyland. They are, however, driving. And if you look at hotels along the coast or even places down Temecula, there has been, of course, a big bounce back in overall activity, largely because people are desperate to get out of the house and they're taking those drive vacations because they don't want to get it onto planes at this particular point in time. So there is some good news out there. The biggest lagging indicator, of course, is jobs. And the labor market has been very bifurcated. What you're dealing with here is two types of job losses. There's the temporary job losses that dominated at the beginning, driven, of course, by the short-run shutdown. But then you've had some of those temporary job losses turn into full-time job losses because we're not all the way back. And indeed, we're still waiting to catch up. We expect as the economy continues to recover, this will come back as well. But you can really see it here, just how unusual the beginning of this was. For example, take those who are on temporary layoff. They didn't lose their job. They're simply waiting to go back to their job once that job reopens. That was all unemployment at the beginning of this thing. Temporary unemployment was almost 12% of the overall labor force. It's never been higher than 2.5% before. Crazy numbers, and it come down pretty sharply. Get a little closer over the course of the last year. Yet again, you can see it here. Temporary layoff, now a little over 3% of the overall workforce. But those who are truly unemployed, who do not have a job to go back to, well, that is rising right now about 4.3%. To put that in context, during the tech recession was quite mild. That number was about 5.4%. And during the Great Recession, it was 9%. So from that basis, people who are long run unemployed, this looks like, at this point in time, a mild recession. Now, again, more data on this. The job openings rate, for example, actually is bouncing back very quickly despite the fact that much of the economy has slowed down. And the right-hand side, for those of you worried about ongoing claims for unemployment, it is worth noting, of course, that the number of people receiving unemployment in the U.S. right now is greater than the number of people who claim to be unemployed. You can't look at those initial claims very much because, sadly, the system was pushed forward so rapidly with no controls that fraud and abuse is rampant. We don't really know what these numbers are telling us. What I do know is some households are clearly on the outside. They need help, but how to get them to that help without all this waste and abuse and fraud, well, that's something we need to be talking about a little bit more carefully. I appreciate it's a K-shaped recovery, but then again, every recovery is K-shaped. Those who are low skilled always get hit the hardest. No different this time. You can see how those without a high school degree, their unemployment went up, but now it's coming down much faster as well. And what about all those small businesses that are going to close? Yeah, a lot of them are. But let's keep in mind, the fundamentals of this economy are good. The economy is roaring back. People understand there's potential out there. And what's interesting here is even as we're seeing record number of new small business bankruptcies, at the same time, California business applications, this is people are talking about opening new businesses, has never been higher. At least not in the almost 20 years we've been collecting this data. So yeah, it's going to be a massive turnover, but you could already see that next round of small businesses getting ready to open in the wake, of course, the failures. Now, what about the Inland Empire? Well, as we've noted, of course, the last bunch of years while we've been working, while the center's been running, the Inland Empire has been doing fantastic. For all the grim rhetoric about it, it is actually an economic star. Overall payroll job growth, the fastest in Southern California. It has slowed down just a little bit, but that has to do with the fact that a lack of labor force. The unemployment in the Inland Empire dropped below Los Angeles's for the first time ever over the course of the last year or so. Unbelievably low numbers on that particular front. And of course, you could see all that growth in labor force that has fueled that spectacular recovery. Same thing in the high desert. This is some data through 2018, was the most recent we have, but you can see the overall job growth in the region. And as of 2019, the unemployment rate was about half of what it was, less than half of what it was back in 2012. So good data on this particular front. And when you look at incomes in the high desert, yet again, good solid numbers, overall incomes rising, and of course, the share of higher income households growing quite rapidly. Things have been doing well, but obviously this is a place that's been hit like everybody else. Not as bad. Remember when you had the Great Recession, the Inland Empire was ground zero in so many of the problems because there was so much in the way of subprime lending. This time, the Inland Empire finds itself more on the positive side of things, only down as of September about 8% in terms of jobs, better than the East Bay, better than San Francisco, better than Orange County and LA. And if you look on the right-hand side and ask where the pain is, 40% of all these job losses are in leisure and hospitality. If you get restaurants reopened, which is happening now, that's going to help a lot. Look for some really good job numbers over the course of the next couple months as leisure, hospitality, and retail get back up and running. Now, it won't cure everything, but you do see things moving forward. And of course, if you look at the spending numbers, this is more data from that Opportunity Insights. You can see how spending has been really doing better in the Inland Empire. Less economic pain overall. Indeed, the region has been doing well. Home sales did slow a lot in the second quarter of the year, but if you look at home prices coming into the third quarter, you could see the big surge. Talk to anybody in real estate, they'll tell you it's hot, hot, hot out there. Anything for sales, getting multiple offers. Obviously, good news for the region on one hand, but of course, gets back to the idea that the lack of available housing to allow the labor force to grow is a big problem, and it's not being dealt with right now. Now, what about when we finally do get control of this virus? How quickly will the economy come back? It's going to come back very quickly because of the stimulus. Now, I appreciate everybody's talking about, hey, I think we need a second stimulus. Well, before you say that, take a step back and recognize the first stimulus hasn't actually had an opportunity to work because the first stimulus wasn't very well thought out. How do they want to stimulate the economy? They gave people a bunch of money. What was the problem in the economy? People couldn't spend money because of the presence of the virus. You're not going to stimulate the economy that way. You have to wait till they can spend money, and then the stimulus kicks in. Now, by the way, it isn't just the federal government, it's also the Federal Reserve that has been slashing interest rates, and of course, has been massively quantitative easing. It's had the desired effect. It's balanced things out, but the full impact of these things will not be felt until we get full control of the virus, and that has not happened yet. And indeed, before we start talking about a second stimulus, let's see what happens with the first one. How big was the stimulus? Crazy large. Take a look at the left-hand side. The blue line there is disposable income, earned disposable income. That comes from your job if you're a W-2 employee, from your business if you're self-employed, from your investment property if you happen to be a landlord. And yeah, it went down a little bit as a result of the downturn. But for every dollar of lost income, the government put back $2, a ferocious stimulus measure like we've never seen before. Now, people can't spend it. Where does that go? Savings. And that's when you see it at the right-hand side. Another eye-popping number, the savings rate, which had never been higher than 15%, shooting up to something on the order of 33%. And who is saving? Who's falling behind on spending? Actually, it's higher income households. You look at this data here, low income households are spending, this is the Opportunity Insights data, spending about the same as they were pre-pandemic. Good news on that particular front. Now, in that data, of course, there are winners and losers. There are some families that are doing pretty well, and there are some families that are still struggling. On net, high-income households, they're spending overall about the same as it was pre-pandemic. High-income households are down about 7%. Now, again, I'm not worried about these folks. They aren't not spending because they're suffering. They're not spending because they can't spend in the context of this crazy situation we find ourselves in. But when the pandemic is under control, this money is going to come roaring out. They're going to take that family to that Disneyland vacation. They're going to bring that family to their overseas vacation. They're going to be going out and eating at their favorite restaurant, and so on and so forth. And that is what's going to fuel the rebound. But it's not going to happen until we get control over the virus. And in the meantime, where is that cash going? Well, into the banking system. Look at these numbers. On the right-hand side, since this thing began, households have tucked away $1.3 trillion in excess savings. Over the last few years, annually, they've been saving about 1.2 trillion. In 6 months, they've saved as much as they did all of last year. Crazy high numbers, crazy high numbers. And on the left-hand side, again, you can see where is it going? Into the checking accounts, into the bank accounts. $2.5 trillion in excess deposits in the commercial banking system right now. Where's your stimulus? Sitting in the banks. Wait, let that get spent. That's what's going to fuel the recovery. I'm not worried about that. What I am worried about is the fact that the federal government is already in the hawk for $3 trillion, and they're going to have to borrow more this year. Maybe $4 trillion in borrowing. As a percent of GDP, that's more than we ever borrowed before. We're borrowing more now than we did during World War II. Unbelievable. Do we not appreciate that this has to be paid back? That we are leaving a huge debt for our children and grandchildren to pay on the basis of this excessive stimulus? I am appalled. I am appalled that our folks in Washington, D.C. have forgotten about the next generations. I'm not happy about this. Remember, we were already hurtling headlong towards a fiscal crisis driven by, of course, the retirement of boomers and the excessive nature of the entitlements, Medicare, and of course, Social Security. We are pulling that crisis closer by this crazy borrowing going on right now. It may feel good, but remember, someone's going to have to pay this back. And the Federal Reserve, They're acting as if this is a great recession as well. They're quantitative easing like crazy. The federal funds rate's at functionally zero. But this is not the Great Recession. Take a look on the left-hand side. Look at the collapse in wealth that happened at the end of the, during and after the Great Recession. It took years for that wealth to rebuild. Now, the reason it collapsed so much is because it was false wealth. It was all driven by the crazy bubble. This time around, there was no massive bubble, at least not outside the stock market. And of course, wealth has not collapsed. In the second quarter of this year, it bounced back near all-time level highs. In the third quarter, it will be. So what are they doing? Well, they're stimulating the economy like crazy, overstimulating the economy. Take a look at M2 growth on the right-hand side here. It's never been higher than it is right now. It was nowhere near this high during the Great Recession. Quantitative easing was needed during the Great Recession because of the nature of that downturn. It is not needed now, but they're doing it anyway. And for the first time in 15 years, I'm going to say the I word, this is inflationary. And unless they turn the corner in the next couple of years, we're going to have a big problem, not just with the federal debt, but also with inflation. Not a good place to be. We are so focused on the current circumstances, we've forgotten the long run. And as a result of that, we could be laying the seeds for the next type downturn. Now, what about when this thing is completely behind us? Will we see a massively different economy? No, we won't. Look, epidemics have been with humanity since the dawn of civilization. The idea that people change, that they stop what they do and do something different because of an epidemic, that's never been seen once in history. King Lear was written by Shakespeare while he was locked in his house, hiding from the plague, ripping through London. When the plague was gone, he reopened the Globe Theatre and Londonians flocked in to see his brand new play. People learn how to live and deal with these kind of things. We will as well. Now, I get it. Some segments are going to lag. Older folks who are most at risk from this disease will be a little bit more shy, but eventually people are going to get out there. For me, what this is really about is two things. One, it's about accelerating existing trends. We had too many restaurants. Some of those aren't going to reopen. Obviously, retail was only under a huge amount of stress by people buying stuff online. De-retailing is accelerating here. These are issues we need to deal with, but we needed to deal with them a year before. It's just hastening things. And actually, in some ways, when you think about the pandemic, it actually is teaching us some important things, particularly important things for the Inland Empire and, of course, the high desert. That important thing is you do not need your employees in the office every single day. Look, my folks have been working from home, and we've been enormously pleased and surprised by how well they have done under these particular circumstances. And what that means is, as a company, almost assuredly, we will allow our people to work from home more often. Now, there's another lesson here. By all those people who dreamed of working from home all the time, right about now, you realize that that isn't exactly what you thought it was going to be either. Besides the 47 pounds you picked up, it also is kind of lonely, and you're desperate to go out with lunch with your coworkers again. So I think that, yeah, there's going to be some shakeout here, but a modest amount of shakeout. And you know, I tell you what, if it means less people on those highways, whether it's the 15 or the 91 or the 10 and the 60, good. It's going to make everybody's life a little better and make our daily commute a little bit easier. Good news all the way across the board. So wrapping it up, look, the long run still matters, folks. The V is the only logical outcome of this thing. The economy will continue to rebound at the speed at which we get this virus under control. Remember, most of the recovery has already occurred. And ultimately, it's about behavior, not government mandates, that will get this thing fully under control. Baseline forecast, 36% Q3, probably 6%, 8% by the end of the year. Unemployment below 7% by the end of the year. Very moderate upticks in debt distress. And of course, little impact on real estate because it's a long-run asset and this is a short-run circumstance. Now, there are wild cards out there. Could there be a true second wave? Possibly. The global situation is still in flux. The government's budget situation, particularly local governments, is also a big issue because while the state's doing fine, obviously local governments are really struggling at this particular point in time. But for me, the biggest enemy of all is the same enemy we've been dealing with for the last 4 or 5 years, miserabilism. Our inability to have candid, honest conversations about our economy and come up with good policies to help everybody out. Instead, everything nowadays gets turned into a political punching bag, and you can't have honest conversations in that kind of atmosphere. Our government, whether it's in the DC or in Sacramento and City Hall, they're legislating by anecdote. And they're doing so on the basis of conventional wisdoms that are neither conventional nor wisdom when you actually look at the data. We are generating problems even as we pretend to solve them. We need to take a step back and recognize that, you know what? This is something we can handle. Yes, it's a tragedy, but it's something that we can pull together and work with to overcome and move on. It's already in the cards. We can already do it. It's very simple. Wash your hands, social distance, and wear a mask. And you know what? Wearing a mask has become political. And that's the toughest thing of all for me to deal with. Look, folks, the economy's fine. It's roaring back already. We get control of this virus and things are going to be fine. But the political craziness of our country right now is something we all need to get a grip on. There is an in-between. There is a reality. And the quicker we push away those who will not operate with data, reality, and understand that compromise is a good word, not a bad one, the worse this is going to get. So be good, be safe, be healthy, enjoy the recovery, and please make sure you get out there and vote for people who can come up with the compromise solutions we need to truly tackle the challenges of our time. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day.
Hello, I'm Keith Metzler, Victorville City Manager, and welcome to the Southern California Logistics Airport. Did you know that SCLA encompasses 2,500 acres, which is equal to 3.9 square miles?
Hello, I'm Victorville Mayor Gloria Garcia. SCLA is proud to be the diamond sponsor for this year's High Desert Opportunity Summit. We hope you enjoy your High Desert Opportunity Summit in a box, which contains some great items from our local businesses that contribute so much to our regional economy. Enjoy the rest of the summit.
How are you finding focus in 2020?
How are you finding focus in 2020?
How are you finding focus in 2020?
How are you finding focus in 2020? The Victor Valley Chambers of Commerce focus in 2020 is to keep our members informed.
In response to COVID-19, this year we launched an app allowing our customers to safely shop online.
We provided PPE to school districts and local individuals.
We've remained focused on helping our clients and serving all of their financial needs.
COVID shut us down. COVID shut us completely down. We searched for ways to stay viable in the community, and we finally found a program to work with the county to serve meals to seniors in need that are in our community. The Great Plates program has us cooking 3 meals a day for seniors in need.
Here at Golden Corral, we've been focused on our employees and our community.
When COVID started, we kind of changed our focus from new construction and home remodels to public safety and sneeze guards. We never expected going to 2020 we would be experts at sneeze guards.
Here at Tanyan Coffee, we have adapted to become COVID compliant, protecting our staff, our team, and our customers.
Despite COVID-19, we have been open for business and offering our customers discounts on their deductible in this very hard time.
In response to COVID-19, we have successfully shifted all of our monthly meetings online. We are now offering our members a free opportunity to promote their business on a weekly basis.
We've been focusing this year at 2020 on creating a safe online space where people can feel supported. They can also have a sense of community, despite the fact that we are all quarantined at home.
Cars Body Shop ran an ad with our local radio station up here to help out families in need.
Despite COVID-19, we pushed through construction. We made safety updates, and we are proud to say that we opened on August 10th to serve our clients.
Here at Golden Corral, we heart the HD.
And we love serving the High Desert community.
Despite these crazy times, business has been so good that we are opening a second location in Victorville, creating more jobs and opportunities within our community.
My name is Valerie Ruiz, and I work with Collision Auto Repair Specialist Cars Body Shop, and we've been serving the High Desert for 6 years.
I'm Josh Ruddick, owner of Vern's Glass. We've been in the High Desert since 1957.
Josh Latunsky, branch manager of the New Chase Bank here in Apple Valley, located on Bear Valley and Apple Valley Road.
I'm Mark Creffield with the Victor Valley Chamber of Commerce. The Victor Valley Chamber of Commerce has been supporting businesses in the community for over 100 years.
I'm Kayleen Malcolm from Pretty Comfy Boutique, and we've been in business for 3 years in the High Desert in Apple Valley.
My name is Sherry Rojo. I'm one of the owners here at the Golden Corral in Hesperia.
Hi, I'm Ashley. I'm one of the managers at Golden Corral in Hesperia.
We opened our restaurant just 10 years ago. Our anniversary was last week. And how long have you been here?
10 years.
All of it.
Hi, I'm Rachel Tanyan, co-owner of Tanyan Coffee Roasters. We've been open here in the High Desert for 9 years now.
In 2020, we're focused on what matters.
We're focused on what really matters.
We're focused on what really matters.
In 2020, we're focused on what really matters. We're focused.
We're focused.
How are you finding focus in 2020?
Hi everybody, my name's Lisa Christine, Director of Corporate Initiatives for the ComAv companies. Did you know that in 22 years here at SCLA that ComAv has supported over 200 top-tier commercial airline clients?
Hello, High Desert Opportunity Summit. My name is Shannon and I'm the board president of the Victor Valley College Foundation. I have had the privilege of serving on the foundation board since 2015, and during this time I've witnessed some amazing successes in support of our students. Thanks to the generous donors and sponsors, many of whom are in the audience this morning. I'm very thankful to be able to connect with you, even virtually. The Victor Valley College Foundation strives to make friends and raises funds to help Victor Valley College serve our community. Today we're thanking you for your friendship and your support. Your attendance today will continue to help advance the educational aspirations of the students of Victor Valley College, affording them a greater chance of reaching their goals and achieving their dreams. The educational landscape is growing and we couldn't be more proud. Like many other educational institutions throughout the region, Victor Valley College has been working to ensure the safety and care for its students. Yes, things look different this year, but that's not stopping our local Rams from rising to the occasion. With guidance from our outstanding leadership and care from incredible faculty, Victor Valley College is focusing on what really matters, their students. I'd like to welcome Victor Valley College Superintendent President Dr. Daniel Walden, as he will be providing a college update and more exciting news on what is to come.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Shannon. I'm Dan Walden. I'm the Superintendent President for Victor Valley College, and we welcome all of you to this High Desert Opportunity Summit. And I'm so excited to be here today to talk to you about one of my favorite subjects, the college. First of all, I'd like to update all of you on what has been the college's response to the COVID pandemic. We've done three primary things. The first thing that I did is we formed a crisis leadership team of certain college personnel that were brought together representing all parts of the college to actually handle the crisis and manage it. We also wanted to develop a reopening plan, and we've developed a plan that we think is very thorough, comprehensive, exhaustive, and will help us as we prepare to reopen when that time comes. For now, though, the classes are, for the most part, remote. They're not, and there's four types of remote learning. One is the traditional online course that we've had for years here at VVC. We average between 15 and 20% of our courses being online prior to the COVID pandemic. The other type of remote learning is synchronous online learning, where we zoom into a meeting. The professor connects with the class at the time the class meets. The class logs on, conducts a lecture. They have some dialogue via Zoom in a synchronous kind of format where they're all together. A third type is in our critical sector classes like public safety kind of classes, and also in some of our career technical education areas like welding and automotive. We do have to have lab face-to-face because there's no way to actually teach some things without that hands-on. So those students do come together. It's about 5% of our classes, and they do social distancing, they wear masks, and other PPE is necessary in order to keep themselves and their instructors safe. So as we move forward, right now the plan is to remain remote in a remote format modality through the spring of 2021. So we're going to be here a while in this environment, and we're having to adjust to it. I also want to say it's really good to be at this summit because out there in this audience are some of the most important people for the college, and that is our business partnerships. The college has one customer, and that's our workforce. That economic workforce that's out there, all of you that run the businesses, that employ our students when they graduate. Now on campus, we always say very frequently the student is our customer. And as far as president and as far as administration and as far as the faculty and the staff, yes, we're here to serve the students. But the college itself exists to serve you, the workforce, so that these students can go out and make you money as you run your businesses and be good employees with the soft skills and the technical skills and the knowledge that you need for them to have. It's so important that we have these partnerships, and we have so many. There's at least 4 that I want to acknowledge here today who've played major roles, and I'm not wanting to leave anyone out, but I want to give you the type of partnerships that we've really been involved in, is what's really important here. And one is like with Desert Valley Hospital. We have a long waiting list in our nursing program. Desert Valley Hospital has come in and taken 64 students off of that waiting list. They pay all of their expenses throughout the nursing program, and then they guarantee them jobs upon completion for 3 years as registered nurses. So thank you, DVH. And also General Atomics. General Atomics so far has hired 3 cohorts of students. They hire them and pay them while they attend our classes. And then they give them some hands-on training at the same time. And over a 2-year period, they go from $20 an hour when they're first hired to almost $30 an hour. And now we're talking to them and preparing for at least 2 more cohorts. Squadron is another great business partner for the college. In fact, our High Desert Training Center that we're so proud of out at SCLA, Squadron's going to be taking over that building and continue to honor the lease that we have currently with the city. So we look forward to working with them, continue to working with them. And Mitsubishi Cement, another great partner. We would probably not be out at SVLA if we'd not had the backing, the support of Mitsubishi. They've been an advocate, they've been a strong voice in assisting us to acquire the High Desert Training Center, and they played a key role in our existing programs that we are offering there, and they're committed to help expand that program as well. I want to wrap up on a couple of things, and one is some of the things that have gone on around the campus in regard to campus improvements. We are building an educational event center and a completely new modernized track and field. So we're going to have a football field that will seat 4,000. And it's going to be modern, it's going to be good, it's going to be the best in the high desert, and we're going to be so proud of it. And then also right next to that, in fact, part of the complex is our educational event center. We were building an event center that can sit down and feed 600 people in a wonderful, plush, high-class environment. And of course, all the amenities to this event center will be around it, the kitchen, the restrooms, the conference rooms, and other things. But then the room divides up into 3 salons, Salon A, B, and C. And those, on a daily basis, will be used for classrooms, for professional development for our staff, all kinds of campus meetings, or other meetings that if people from the High Desert, any of you in the business fields need to use this event center, you want to rent it from us, we are more than happy to talk to you about that. And you say, when's this going to happen? Well, we expect to begin construction by August 2021 and move in there in February 2023. So we're really excited about this event center and this athletic field. Finally, in the midst of all the pandemic and everything that's gone on, the college is still in pursuit of excellence. In 2020, Victor Valley College is focused on winning the Aspen Prize. We believe that Victor Valley College should be the #1 college in the United States. So for that reason, we're going after the Aspen Prize, which, by the way, is just measuring student metrics. That is the percentage of students graduating, getting certificates, transferring to 4 years. And so those metrics, which I won't go into right now, that's what is measured when a college is being given the Aspen Prize. Now, our first little momentum point is to, within the next 3 to 5 years, we want to be in that top 150 colleges that'll put us in the top 15% in the nation in our metrics. Now, we know everybody's getting better, but we're going to get better faster than they are, because this is Victor Valley College and these are our students, and we can be the best. We can be number one. And then once we're in the top 15% in the country, we're going to make a big deal out of that in the high desert. And everybody's going to know how good this college is in its outcome. It's already a great college. The students already are graduating and getting degrees and developing careers and all of that. We're talking about the numbers of those graduating increasing. And so within 6 to 10 years, we want to announce that Victor Valley College has won the, well, sort of the Nobel Prize, the Aspen Prize, for being the #1 college in the United States, the #1 community college. So how are you finding focus in 2020? Thank you for having me, and let's continue to have a great summit.
Hi, High Desert Opportunity Summit. My name is Lauren, and I'm a Victor Valley College student. I'm in my first semester of the nursing program. Thank you so much for your contribution to our community and for continuing to support VVC. We appreciate all that you do. Thank you so much. Stay safe and take care.
Hello, I'm Keith Metzler, Victorville City Manager, and welcome to the Southern California Logistics Airport. Did you know that leading airlines from around the world rely on SCLA to store their aircraft?
Hi, I'm Ryan Holman, the proud superintendent of the Snowline Joint Unified School District right here in the High Desert. On behalf of my wonderful High Desert superintendent colleagues and the outstanding employees who make up the Mountain Desert Career Pathways JPA, as well as the many industry, government, education, and community representatives connected to the Mountain Desert Economic Partnership, it's our honor and great privilege to return as sponsors for this year's High Desert Opportunity Summit. Now, the Mountain Desert Economic Partnership, often referred to as MDEP, is a true collaborative that's using a collective impact approach designed to transform the economic landscape of the high desert over the next 15 years. Recently recognized by the California School Boards Association with the prestigious statewide Golden Bell Award, MDEP and its participants continue to work toward 4 outcomes for the high desert. 1, that residents learn, work, play, and stay in the high desert. 2, that the region is recognized as a collaborative, action-oriented ecosystem. 3, that it is a hub for innovators and entrepreneurs. And lastly, that we have adaptive, future-ready students. With all that has happened in 2020, many people have concerns about what is going on in our local K-12 educational system. So up next is a very candid discussion with some of our local school district leaders about what their organizations are facing and what our students have to look forward to for the rest of this school year and beyond. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the conversation.
Good morning and hello, High Desert Opportunity Summit. My name is Stephanie Houston and I'm Assistant Superintendent at the San Bernardino County Office of Education. We know that few things are as important to our High Desert community as education and our students. So over the last few months, we've had to be nimble, we've had to be adaptive. It's been really tough. It's been tough on our students, tough on our parents, our communities, our teachers, and certainly our administrators. One thing we know for sure, though, is that we're all in this together and we're working hard to make sure that our students have an amazing 2020-21 school year. So for today, we're hoping to be able to address some concerns, address some advice, offer some solutions, and really kind of just get a feel for what's going on in schools. So with that, We've got some amazing educators here from the High Desert, so I'm going to do just really quick introductions. So we have from our Lucerne Valley Unified School District, our Superintendent Peter Livingston. From our Hesperia Unified School District, we have our Superintendent Dave Olney. And from Victor Elementary School District, we have Jan Gonzalez. And from our Excelsior Charter Schools, we have Dr. Derek King. So welcome and thank you for being with us today. So to begin, what we're going to do is have you briefly share what school looks like for the majority of your students today. And we'll start with you, Peter.
Sure, you bet. And so out in the Lucerne Valley, we were able to secure a waiver to reopen our elementary schools on a hybrid model. And so that began on August 20th, and we've been on that model now for going on about 6 weeks. In the hybrid model, we have students coming in smaller cohorts. They come to school 2 days a week in groups of up to 12 students in a classroom, and they stay within that cohort throughout the day. And they would either come on Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, Friday. And then families also have the choice to stay at home on virtual distance learning if they want to do that too. And so in that time they're at school, they're getting live lessons with their teachers, having interaction within their cohorts, and then on the days they're not in school, they're working at home on the assignments that have been given to them with the teachers checking in with them in the afternoon, or doing some live streaming from the classroom as well to the students at home. At our middle high school, we are on full virtual distance learning, and in that model, they're having a period day just like they normally would, checking in with their teachers for 30-minute blocks and then rotating to the next class. In the afternoons, we've started up some cohorts for intervention and other activities with up to 25% of our students on campus at one time in groups less than 14 in that. And so the students are able to get in to get reconnected and further support there. With our students with special needs at all levels, they're in class in cohorts too for those who choose. For those who don't, they're on the virtual distance learning model as well. We also have a virtual academy we started where students are on a platform where they're not on a schedule during the day in 30-minute periods, but they can do their work when they choose. It could be in the evenings at different times, and specifically for like a few high school students who have had to pick up work to support their families, that model works for them the best. And so they're working during the day, and then in the evenings they're doing the classwork on the virtual platform that we have for them.
So it's one of our smaller districts, right, in the outline area. So next, Superintendent Olney, we've got a larger district, a larger unified school district. So tell us what's going on in Hesperia.
Well, this is one of those days where you really wish you were in a smaller school district. But at this point in time, we're in the process of developing our waiver that Peter just mentioned. But myself, and very similar to the situation that Jan finds herself in Victorville, our numbers have been, of COVID have been much higher. Mm-hmm. And so right now, grades TK through 12, it is full distance learning. And our elementary schedule is a little bit different than our secondary schedule because our elementary students have one teacher. With our secondary, rather than having the students meet with every single teacher every day on a Zoom platform or a Google Meets platform virtually, they do it every other day. So it might be, in a typical high school schedule, I'm going to be working with periods 1, 3, and 5 today, and tomorrow it might be 2, 4, and 6. But it is a mixture of both what we call synchronous, which means live interaction with the teacher, through those platforms, or asynchronous, where they're getting their information, working on assignments independently on those platforms or other resources that they do have. In Hesperia, we've been very fortunate. We've been a one-to-one district for many years now. So all of our students in grades 1 through 12 have had their own Chromebook. This has made it much, much easier for us. And we had enough Chromebooks at the beginning of this year to provide them with our kindergarten students and even our transitional kindergarten students. So that really has been a benefit for us. Like Peter and his secondary schools, we also have cohorts now following the state guidance, allowing small groups of stable groups of students coming in. I'm saying that we're probably almost up to 200 cohorts of students that are now coming in. It might be 1 day a week, it might be 5 days a week, We really did focus on our special education students, the students that had the most significant needs, but that is one way that we're providing support in addition to the distance learning that they currently find themselves.
Jan, what about in our elementary district? Unique needs.
So one of the times when I feel like I'm fortunate to be elementary only right now, like Asperia, we're in full distance learning for our elementary kids as we speak. Our numbers, even right now, are still inching up a little bit in Victorville for COVID. We have one-on-one devices, Chromebooks for TK all the way up to 6, and hotspots for the families who need them if they don't have the connectivity. Our teachers are committed to spending at least 180 minutes online, live interaction with the kids. That would look different for every teacher though, because many of them do small group learning. And so that looks different grade level to grade level, teacher to teacher. The asynchronous work is a combination of videotape lessons of the teacher, like reviewing something that they went over in the synchronous time, and then we're just reinforcing it so that the kids have a little more help to do their asynchronous work, projects they're doing, those types of things. So, you know, so far so good. My hats are off to our teachers for adapting to a new norm, and it's going okay. We too are looking forward to a time when we can get the kids back. We're hoping within the next couple of weeks that we'll get back to approaching red, where we were, a week ago, but now we're back to purple again. So once we hit that, we're going to go in for the hybrid.
Dr. King, tell us what's happening in Excelsior.
So Excelsior, we're spread out throughout San Bernardino and Riverside County. So obviously we're under the same mandates for the Department of Health, depending on the county. So with us, we are 7th through 12th grade. And so like a lot of things that you heard from Dave and Jan and Peter, we've always been one-to-one device. So Excelsior has always been a hybrid model where you have classroom, you have distance learning, and you have college coursework going on at the same time. So right now what you see with us very closely mirrors to on-campus instruction. Their classroom schedule is the same, and the reason why we did that is so when we re-engage or able to go back on campus, there's not much disruption that's happening at all for the students and or the parents. The other thing that we've been very, very intentional about is really the social emotional supports. So both our students, our staff, and our families actually have an opportunity multiple times during the week to actually do live synchronous yoga. It's actually supported from some of our staff members. We've also done some social gatherings for our students, which we call Eagle's Nest, and some other things with some esports where students are playing video games online, really just trying to have that interaction with them. And then like Jan mentioned, we've been providing hotspots where needed to make sure that all students can stay engaged.
Thanks. Well, so I'm going to now just kind of target a few questions that, sort of one at a time, but certainly feel free to jump in if you have something to add. So the first question is for you, Jan.
All right.
And so when we talk about our elementary age kids, engagement it's tough when we're a brick and mortar, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in this environment, can you give us a little insight into how teachers are engaging with our kiddos in the elementary grade?
Sure. We knew from March to June that was going to be probably our biggest challenge area. It was making sure our little ones, transitional kindergartners come in at 4 years of age. So to keep them engaged for any amount of time so that they're actually learning was going to be a challenge. One of the first steps we took this summer was we assembled a group. We call it ARC. It's Accountability and Report Card Committee. And they went ahead and identified focus standards that our teachers would focus on throughout the district so that they weren't overwhelmed by all the standards and focus on the ones that would continue these kids learning from grade level to grade level. After that was done, we went ahead and provided the professional development for the teachers, especially in areas like guided reading and other reading skills. So watching teachers in their classrooms, because I get to do Zoom visits instead of walking through classrooms right now, has been amazing. It's just wonderful seeing the teachers. Literally everyone in education has relearned their job, but to watch them actually do this now has been incredible. I've seen things like small group instruction for engagement, because the kids seem to do better in the small group, especially the youngest ones, in responding and sharing their knowledge with the teacher when they're in a smaller group rather than in a whole group. I've seen project learning. Just last Friday, I was in a special education class where they had each built their own catapults at home and launched them and then measured how far they were able to launch their object in their catapults. Just incredible things. The teacher reward system for engagement has been awesome. These teachers are really pulling tricks out of their hat they didn't even know they had. Another class I was in last week, a teacher was wearing a wig when I came in, and she felt like she had to explain it because I'm like, okay, because it was an old mullet is what it was. So, but what she shared was one of her students had bought that as a prize for earning class dojo points. And so that was one of the options. She would lay the wigs out and he would choose which one that she had to wear all day, and that's what she was doing. So it's been great stuff. As far as learning loss goes, each of our sites have identified the assessments they want to use, and they began those as a baseline when we first started in August. And in fact, when I was in some classrooms this week, I noticed that some were still doing assessments because next week is parent-teacher conferences, which will be held just like they always do, except via Zoom. And kids will be getting their progress reports. So they're assessing the learning loss. I'm hearing from some teachers that they feel like some students are ahead of where their students were this time last year because of the focus. That's not all students, because not all students can be as engaged on Zoom as others. So, but they're doing the best they can, and they're doing an outstanding job with what we have right now. So I'm very proud.
And Dave, you had mentioned small group cohorts, and is that one of the strategies that you're focusing on for that potential learning loss, and where you're targeting first?
Absolutely, and we only just began those this week, so this is just a start. But kind of to piggyback on what Jan was saying, we have students that I think are doing relatively well, and I'm always going to have a huge asterisk with that says I'm sorry, but nothing is going to replicate our students being back in the classroom. But we do have those students who are progressing fairly well through the virtual schooling concept. But we also have a number of students that are really struggling with it as well. And so I think really taking a look, and as I said, we're kind of focusing in on our students with the greatest needs first. And of course, a lot of times that ends up with our special education students. But the other piece is to take a look at some of those students who may not be in special education, or in a typical school year, we wouldn't necessarily be identifying as that student that needs that additional help. In this circumstance, there are students that have, it's become very painfully aware that they need that additional support. And so that's our focus with the cohorts at this time.
So Peter, you had mentioned that your district is on a waiver. So there is a waiver option that is available for school districts, and it's an exception option. So when a county is in, and Jan, you had mentioned the colors, we have these color bands, and so when a county's case rate exceeds whatever the state recommendation is, there's a prohibition for in-person instruction. However, there's an exception waiver if in your community the case rate is lower. And so you were able to secure that waiver. So the instruction and what's happening on your campuses looks a little bit different than what we're experiencing across the county. And so can you talk to us just a little bit about what it looks like on your campuses? But I think there's an assumption, because you're on a waiver, that it's sort of like back to normal, and it's really a little bit different than that.
No, it's definitely not back to normal. I mean, we're trying to bring normalcy back to what we're doing in the schools. With the lower number of students on campus, I mean, if you're to visit our campus, we have half the number of students as normal, and you go into a classroom, and instead of seeing 24 to 30 students, you're going to see 8 to 12 students at a time, spread apart, socially distanced, with sneeze guards in front of them, with kindergarten through second graders, most of them having masks on. It's recommended by the state at this point, so that's what we followed, is having it be recommended. Our third graders and up, it's required, and so you will see all those students with masks on. We've spread out the playground, so when they go out there to play, they're playing within their cohorted class, so they're not intermingling as much out there. We have a lot more cleaning going on. Many of our staff members have cleaning supplies with them, so we're constantly spraying areas down to be disinfected. We installed outdoor hand washing stations, which you normally wouldn't see, but now we have them out there permanently, which will support kids in the long run too. That's a positive that will come out of this for us. Our lunch schedule was spread out, so we have less kids at a time eating, and they're not just eating inside. We set up outdoor dining for them too, like you'd see at some of the restaurants out there with tarps and tents up so that they can be protected from the sun while they're eating outside. So you'll see kids back on our campus. You'll see teachers working with the kids, doing an amazing job supporting each other, and our classified staff stepping into many roles beyond just their job description to do whatever's needed to support. And like the others up here have said, without our staffs, this wouldn't happen, whether it be virtually or in person. And so I commend our staff for doing that. And so you will see some similarities to what it has been in the past, but definitely looks different too.
Thank you. Okay, so Dr. King, we know that it's tough on our parents, right? We've either personally experienced that, we hear from our parents and our kids. So do you have any advice that you would want to give for our parents?
Absolutely, and that would be extend grace and be patient with us. Because what you kind of heard thematically is some of these decisions aren't up to us. It depends on where we're located, right? So we don't necessarily have the opportunity to come back on campus, excuse me. But one of the other things I want to also address that kind of piggybacks on their responses is we also are very mindful that not every kid's home environment is conducive to learning, right? So especially as you go lower on the socioeconomic rung, or depending on how many people live in that household, some of the academic progress that may not be happening may not be a function of the kid's cognitive ability. It might just be a function of the environment, right? And isolation is also having an impact. So as it relates to our parents, I would just suggest stay engaged, do your absolute best to keep in constant communication with that school site. Assist us in engaging your child, whether that's making sure they keep their camera on when they're in that Zoom session, making sure, they're sitting there, but also giving us some feedback in terms of, hey, this works, better for my child or whatnot. So I would just suggest stay fully engaged, be somewhat patient, read all of the messaging that you're getting, because I know that could be somewhat exhaustive because, we're getting a lot of stuff, but it's important that we send it to you and that you read it.
Great. Is there anything, and anyone can kind of jump in on this one though, if you have parents that are a little bit nervous, nervous to send students back to campus, what do you have to say to them about that?
Well, I think that it is definitely understandable. I think one of the challenges that we've all faced has been, lack of information, sometimes misinformation, trying to actually get a good picture of really what is going on. There's a lot of uneasiness out there among our community. We are going to continue to offer distance learning as long as we are still in this state of emergency, so that even if we're blessed as Lucerne was to get the waiver and bring back our elementary students, or if we all are blessed and the county goes to the red tier and we're able to open all of our schools, at least in that 2-day-a-week model that was explained, there's still going to be those who don't want to bring their children back, and I get that. And so we are going to do everything we can to accommodate you. But it also goes back to something that Peter mentioned earlier. I can tell you that from the beginning of this, the onset of this pandemic, I get to meet with my colleagues fairly regularly, and we were talking way back in, I think, the end of February, beginning of March. We upgraded our disinfecting standards. What our custodians were focusing on shifted, and we've continued to do that, allow that to evolve, make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep our schools as clean as they possibly can be and as safe as they can be.
All right. So, Dave, to just continue with you, so Hesperia Unified School District is one of the largest employers in the region. And so how have you sort of addressed this a little bit already, but how have you engaged your support staff and your faculty and everybody, as we're going through this pandemic?
Well, I think even from the very get-go, we knew we were all in this together, and it's just communication and communication and communication. Our teachers, and my colleagues have commended theirs. I've got to tell you, our teachers have gone above and beyond. our administrators, our classified employees. Just everybody understands that we're in a situation that we have never dealt with before. And so, you know, I've got a couple of directors, one of elementary education, one of secondary education. When this first started back in March, they met with their principals every single week. I attended as many of those meetings as I could. We've used social media, we've used our phone calling out system, email, as much as we possibly could to make sure that everybody knew what we were dealing with, what information we could verify, what it looks like that we're going to have to go through. And I think because of the collaborative culture that we have in our district, everybody was just working together to try to do the best that they could possibly do. We officially started distance learning on April 6th. I can tell you that most of my teachers were doing that prior, even connecting with their students during spring break last year. During these tough times, you truly see the character, and it is just amazing how many folks are just, doing everything they can to support their kids.
If I could just add one thing to that, because sometimes this gets lost, but a lot of our teachers are parents also.
Yes.
So they have the amplified impact of having to deliver the instruction, engage the student, but I have my 7-year-old that also needs my support also. And so sometimes that gets lost, but what we've tried to do is be very, very mindful of that, allowing telework even where, now we have some people back on campus. So our instruction is being delivered for some people at home, right? We provided the devices where we needed to. We even provided different furniture, equipment, whatever it is we needed to do, trying to be mindful that, like you've heard thematically, our teachers are really, our entire staff, support staff, everyone, really going above and beyond, and then focusing on, specific, more vulnerable student populations like our English learners, like our special education students, our homeless students, our foster youth, making sure that we're having additional support personnel in those Zoom classes to have other breakouts, other tutoring sessions and all of that, but also in all of that time, remembering that our teachers are also parents.
And they're going through not only with their own family, but also trying to make such a huge shift. I mean, this is an incredible shift that we have done. I can tell you, and I probably speak for all of you, our teachers are exhausted right now.
Yes.
Our support staff is exhausted right now.
Yes.
And so we need to make sure that we are certainly being concerned for their needs as well. And I agree, Jan, I think our parents, our families. So this is not just isolated to any one segment. This truly has affected us all.
Yes.
And one of the best stories, or realistic stories, I should say, I wouldn't necessarily call it best, I heard was from a high school student the other day when asked how it was going, responded by saying, school used to be my getaway. And I think that could be for teachers, for anyone. And now there's 4 of us inside a house, not being able to leave it, with the 3 of us doing learning and 1 being the parent and trying to work. And I don't have my escape anymore. And this was from a high school student who is a successful student, but now that's what their reality is. And so when we go back to, like Dr. King talked about, the social, emotional aspect of it, it's, it's our kids, it's our families, it's our staff, it's our administrators, it's everyone. And, Dave talked about us all being in this together, and that truly is in this point. You see the best of people come out, and, I can say we've seen it too, echo the sentiments of everyone up here.
One of the things I always say is that education is economic development, right? And to support that, we know that our school districts are some of our largest employers in our communities. And so this is really for everybody. It's kind of lightning round, kind of just a quick response to, when you look at your district and you look at the next 1 to 3 years, what do you see in terms of the future of hiring and in this education sector?
For us, it's definitely teachers. There is going to be a need for teachers as they retire and leave the field, and we are picking them up as they become available on sometimes new, they're called PIPs and STIPs, new credentials, and we've been filling a lot of positions as some of our teachers retire and leave the field. And so for us, definitely it's teachers, and then always instructional aides as well. Those that come in and support our students. Those are positions, especially for students maybe in college or that want to head in that direction to teaching, to get your feet wet, so to speak, and get into the classrooms. But those will be 2 of the biggest ones that we'll definitely be filling. sure you may hear the same things from some of the others.
Absolutely. I was going to say superintendent because I don't know how much more of this I can do. But,
Right.
yeah, I agree with Peter. And I would also say, I think, one of the exciting things about our region, I mean, I know these folks very well. I mean, they're just not colleagues, they're friends. And, we converse with each other very regularly. And part of that, too, is, looking at the economic development of our region. And so for us, I think in addition to the teachers that Peter alluded to, I'd say teachers in the career technical education field is also going to be something that we're definitely going to be looking at over the next couple of years.
I totally agree with both of them. Speech pathologists has been in need even before COVID, so that's always going to be a need. For us, we also added psychologists at each of our sites for our multi-tiered systems of support teams, and they are in huge use, going back to the social emotional learning right now. I mean, they're going into classrooms, they're doing social emotional lessons with kids to help get them through this, and I just think that's going to continue to be a huge need for every school district.
And I would just suggest, to piggyback on all that, anyone who's interested in education and thinking about what should I do, I would definitely piggyback on what Dave said. We're all going to be in need of career technical education, properly credentialed people, and additionally, special education, specifically speech pathology, school psychologists, all of those things, because what we're doing a better job in education now is really the self-care and the wellness of the entire child. So, having personnel who are properly credentialed that we can hire to support that is going to be great, married with the overall direction of our region, looking at those business sectors and how we're then filling those, right? How we're preparing students to make that transition.
So, in the spirit of, workforce, economic development, there are a lot of external factors that are affecting our economy that are, out of our control during this pandemic. As you look at your districts and the decisions that you have to make related to opening, having students return, what are some of those things that are maybe out of your control that that you want to share, so that folks have a better idea of really that, gosh, in a perfect world, and if I had a magic wand, this is what I would do, but I don't have that power. There's so much out of my control. So what are some of the external pieces?
The guidelines that have come from the California Department of Public Health and CDE, California Department of Education, those are outside of my control. They're right. They're good for people to keep staff and students safe, but at the same time, when you're planning for a return, that's how many kids you can have in a classroom, how many kids you can have on a bus, how do you feed these children? There are effects of this we have to negotiate. We can't just do it without including our bargaining units. So there's a lot of different balls to juggle to get this to happen.
And I've used this analogy with my team quite frequently. A lot of times it appears that, you start to go down one rabbit hole and you just find so many others. And it's, oh yeah, what about this? So, in addition to, the guiding documents and what we're allowed to do and not allowed to do. And it took us a long time to where at least we even had clarity of that. Because again, I'll give the grace, because I agree with Derek mentioning grace is very, very important right now. We were learning about this pandemic while we were trying to deal with it, and we continue to learn. So the documents that we have to follow, the laws we have to follow, bargaining with our employee associations, making sure that we're dealing with safety, and trying to find what really does work to make sure that a classroom is safe. Look, I'm a father. I want kids back in school. I get that. But where else are you going to put 30, 35 students into a 960 square foot room for 6 hours at a time? We have to make sure that we're ensuring the safety. Transportation. How do we make sure that we get our students to school safely? How do we feed our students? If we have some students that are in school and some students that are at home, how do we make sure that both sets of students are getting the services they need, getting the meals they need? So there are many, Jan's right, this is juggling many balls in the air right now. I wish it was easy as flipping a switch and say, come on, bring on the kids, but it just isn't.
That little bit of,
go ahead, Peter.
Sorry, will determine something that we need, and then you go to try and find it. And you know, you're going to be told it's delivered next week for a resource you might try to put into your school or your classrooms, and then it's on back order, and it's on back order, and it's on back order, and all of a sudden it's a month out. So we may be able to identify something from the guidance that's forever changing, and then it's finding the place to get it. It's become a lot easier now with many of the PPE supplies to keep those stocked. But if you're going out to look for HEPA air filters, for example, you know, good luck. They're on back order. So we're constantly looking for those. That's an external factor that we can't control. And so it's not as easy as just saying, okay, Dave, you know, we're going to order, and in your district, I can't imagine, you know, 22,000 sneeze guards, good luck. You know, it's a...
Fortunately, we got them those early.
Yeah, but they're hard to find, they're hard to get in stock.
Absolutely.
If I had a magic wand, I could erase anything. It would be people's political philosophy, how it impacts all of this. Because what we're thinking about is student learning, teaching, health, and safety, right? People's political disposition is not something that we're considering. You know, like Jan mentioned, some of these decisions are, like everyone has mentioned, are beyond our control. Department of Public Health, what they allow us to do, you know, and to kind of go back to what you were saying. So in the secondary setting, we have to be below that threshold, well, everyone, but we have to be below that 8% threshold in our particular county, in our area of our county, for 14 days. So it's not even a matter, like Jan mentioned, of getting there, it's staying there, right? And so if I had a magic wand that I could erase anything, it would be that political piece to it, because even when we survey our parents, a healthy number of the responses had nothing to do with students. It had to do with geopolitical things. And I was like, well, great, we'll read it, but, you know, I don't know how that impacts it. But I do understand that everyone is just trying to deal with this, but please understand from our perspective, it's not based on politics. It's really just based on the student.
And I agree with that, but I also want to recognize that we are trying to balance, as you know, leaders in our school system, we're trying to balance the educational needs of our students with safety, and then we can't make decisions in a bubble. And we have to understand that this impacts how our families operate. You know, a lot of our families rely on our schools to be a safe place for their students to go while they're at work. And you know, if they're blessed to be able to still go to work, because as Peter mentioned, I need the diversion too. But finding daycare is a challenge. So there are a number of factors, and I agree with you. I think we need to push the politics aside, but we as educators need to make sure that we're still not operating in that educator bubble and realize that we serve a broad community, and we have a responsibility to do that.
So I'm sure that, you know, as you've been responding to the pandemic and looking at the whole picture, the community, that, you know, there are probably resources that your districts have available that maybe people don't know about. So is there something that you want the community to know that you're offering that's available that maybe they don't realize?
I think we're all able to do this. So like the seamless summer option now for meal service, now we can actually serve 7 days a week. So you can actually pick up meals that will extend for Saturday and Sunday. And it's not based on what school your child goes to. You can go to any school that's serving and actually pick up. So that's an important resource that I think will be good for people to know.
Yeah, we highly encourage parents to go to any of our websites to figure out when they can go pick up, what days those meals are available to them, because we want them to have the food in their cupboards and their refrigerators. So that's big for us. Resource that we're providing, and I'm well aware that it exists in the other districts as well, is our Family Resource Center. Ours is at the crux of Nisqually and the 15, and we offer all kinds of help for families beyond education. So there are computers there where parents need to go fill out applications for whatever their need is, they can go use those. There are classes for our parents on how to cope with the distance learning. And there are actual teachers there to share, here's the math lesson, here's what you should do to support this math lesson, those types of classes for parents. And then, of course, they have oodles of other resources for families that we don't provide for as a district, but the community does. So it's all there for them to go and ask for help.
Absolutely, and I was going to say pretty much the same thing. Go to our website. We have a number of resources and information on the website. We also have how-to videos to support our parents and our child care workers and how do you help students get through distance learning. So make sure you're doing that as well. We have counseling resources. I know many of our districts, and I think pretty soon all of our districts in the high desert are going to have a service called Care Solace, where if you're having a hard time connecting with a counselor, a mental health professional, that you can go through this service and be able to have somebody assist you. So I think we're really trying to, from meals to academic support, to counseling support and social emotional support. I think that if you're having a difficult time finding it on our websites, call our offices. We're here to help you.
Right, one more thing to highlight across our region with all of our unified school districts is our adult education programs that we have going. And so while you might be at home with your students and children, if you have some work to finish up to graduate or in other areas, all of our region as a whole is offering adult education. Ours is happening virtually at this point, but it could be an opportunity for a parent to be logging in and modeling that behavior for their student while they're bettering themselves too. So again, I could piggyback on everything they've said, but I wanted to throw in there that adult education resource with the Sperry, Apple Valley, Victorville, over to Snowline and Phelan out to Lucerne Valley. Our entire region has it covered in one aspect. So that would be another thing I think we would want everyone to know.
Really important. I mean, you really are the hub, right? You're the hub and the network convener for everything that's happening in the communities. So if you had about a minute to sit down with each student, parent, or employee, what would be the message that you would want to share with them?
I would say a message of hope. And with that, there's so many difficulties I think we're all facing at this point and challenges, but we've got to keep hope within ourselves and each other. And by doing that, doing everything we can to stay positive. And when you see that family member or maybe that neighbor that's falling down a little bit, reach out to help them up and give them that hope again. Stay positive through this. We'll get back to it. And at that point, I think we're all going to appreciate those little things, even that we missed, and I kind of joke a little bit. I'm looking forward to the parent calling me on the phone, yelling at me because the bus was late or something, when their high school kid didn't get home. I'm not having that, and those little things that you don't even realize you miss, but I think we'll appreciate them even more and keep that hope it is going to get better.
Yeah, to build on that, I'll kind of also build on what Derek said earlier. We started our school year this year talking about the importance of grace. I think with any child, with any parent, please know that we want your children back in school as soon as we possibly can. This has been a disruption in all of our lives, and we just need to be there for one another. Hope is a tremendously powerful emotion, and we need to maintain that and work together to do what's best for our kids.
I think, and I'll speak for all of us if you don't mind, is how proud we are of everyone. Starting in March with our classified employees, to get out there and feed the community the way they did, and our custodians and maintenance and everybody else who stepped up and really had to relearn what this looked like to keep everyone safe on campus. Our teachers who have come back and relearned their job, and administrators who are being that leader on those campuses and doing it with calm and encouragement. And then our parents and kids, oh my gosh, the resiliency and the determination to do what's right, it's so impressive. We're just so proud of everyone.
And to echo what they've said, and just very, very directly, is we miss you. We miss you. To Jan's point, we're proud of you, and we're going to find success in this, right? Keep talking with us. We're all going through the same thing. We're all taking the same drink from a fire hose, right? So it's a tough one, right? But we're going to come out the other side no matter what. So our intention is to come out the other side better. Now, in the middle, we understand isolation hurts, and isolation has a huge impact. But reach out to us. We'll figure this out together.
hearing hope and grace and pride and you know, resiliency and all of this, you know, I know that our students, they come to school to learn, but they also come to school to be loved, and we know that. And you know, we love our kids, we love our communities, and I think that message has come out so clear. So I thank you so much for engaging in this conversation and really just bringing it down to earth, bringing it down to the realities that you're facing. Your positions, your jobs are certainly not easy, but it's clear that you do it with passion, and you're here for the right reasons, and you're here to support our communities. And for that, I thank you, and thank you for your time. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, thanks for hopping on a Zoom call today. Just a quick update. This Thursday is High Desert Opportunity Summit at 9 a.m. We all have our access codes. Wait, does Fred know his cam's on?
Hey, your camera's not covered.
What camera?
The cover that you got from the HDOS box.
Oh my God. I hope you enjoy your camera cover. Thank you for coming to High Desert Opportunity Summit. Enjoy today.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Welcome aboard High Desert Opportunity Summit. Sit back, relax, and enjoy your tour of the SCLA.
Hello, I'm Keith Metzler, Victorville City Manager, and welcome to the Southern California Logistics Airport. We're really excited to give you this behind-the-scenes tour today of SCLA. Here, we cater to a variety of industries, all in one location. Beyond the excitement of what's happened here on the airport, we have seen tremendous amount of success off the airport. Off airport, we have a number of successes on the industrial side in the manufacturing and warehousing sectors, including large recognizable national and international companies. We serve companies that focus on everything from experimental aircraft development to flight testing to aircraft maintenance to aircraft painting, and we've actually participated in both the delivery and repair of aircraft flying around the world.
Hello, High Desert Opportunity Summit. My name is Chief Kendrick. I'd like to welcome you to Southern California Logistics Airport Fire Department. Here at Southern California Logistics Airport Fire Department, we handle a multitude of emergencies, from aircraft to structural and emergency medical and hazmat. Unlike a regular fire department that has engine pumpers and brush trucks, this is what we operate with: large aircraft rescue firefighting apparatus.
Hi everybody, my name's Lisa Christine, Director of Corporate Initiatives for the ComAv companies. Welcome to ComAv Hangar 681. ComAv Technical Services is one of the founding members of AFRA, which is the Aircraft Fleet Recycling Association. So we make moves to provide a greener, more responsible way of recycling aircraft. ComAv Technical Services is the winner of this year's AQMD Exemplar Award. We made a lot of progress, and we've replaced our equipment with more fuel-efficient engines in it, Tier 4 engines, to help create a cleaner environment and support air quality. Well, everybody, thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed your tour here at the ComAv companies. See you next time.
Hi, I'm John Patterson with International Aerospace Coatings, and we're focused on what really matters. And the exciting thing that we do is we paint aircraft. We paint aircraft not only for Boeing, but for Southwest, Alaska, United Airlines, and a lot of the major carriers. We do a lot of the special paint programs that you guys see flying out there. Stuff for Star Wars, the Pixar Pier for Alaska, Mortal Love for Alaska. There's lots of aircrafts out there that we do the specialty paint for. So there's lots of stuff that's happening here behind the scenes other than just painting the normal aircrafts that you see, but some of the special ones that if you're lucky enough to fly on, chances are it was done at IAC here at SCLA. The first aircraft that you're seeing there that was all shiny, looks like a chrome, that aircraft is about day 2 of the actual process flow there, and all of the stripper's been done onto it, and so now it's shining, it's ready for us to get sanding. In our next aircraft here, you can see what happens after about the 3rd day of sanding of it. So it's getting ready to get washed down and get ready to get primed. In our last bay here, we got our aircraft that's at day 7, so tomorrow it's actually going to go out, fly away, we're going to get another aircraft in, and we're going to start the process all over again. So in total, for this type of aircraft that you see, it's about 8 days from start to finish.
Hi, welcome. I'm Stacy Duvall with Duvall Rubber Manufacturing, and we're happy to have you guys here today. Duvall Rubber is a custom rubber manufacturer. We manufacture washers, seals, tubes, edge protectors, all sorts of rubber products that you could only ever imagine. So let's head into Duvall Rubber and I'll show you exactly what we do here. When you enter our shop, you'll see all different types of processes that we use to manufacture these rubber gaskets. We start with a raw compound that we have mixed specifically for our customers so that it can resist heat or UV rays or any type of other oil or chemical that it might come in contact with. We have a lot of equipment at Duvall Rubber. We have our mill that warms up the materials, and then we use our extruders to make the different shapes and forms that we'll use throughout the rest of the process. When COVID hit, we were a bit worried, but Duvall is a small, flexible company, and we were able to put some orders off that our customers needed to and adjust so that we could help others that were in dire need of something quick and reliable. At Duvall Rubber, we're all about being flexible. That was fun. Thanks for stopping by High Desert Opportunity Summit. It was great.
Oh hey, did you know that this aircraft was used in a major blockbuster film, Tenet? They built an actual airport terminal and crashed this airplane into it for the movie. Well, my name is James Morawski, and I am the Airport Operations and Facilities Manager for the Southern California Logistics Airport. More than 20 films and 13 commercials have been filmed here at the Southern California Logistics Airport.
Hello, High Desert Opportunity Summit. Welcome to the tour. My name is Mark Driscoll with Mercier, and we're going to show you around a little bit here at the base at Victorville, SCLA. We've been serving the high desert for over 30 years up here. You're probably very familiar with the blue and white helicopters. We've been partnering here at the fire department, at the fire station here at SCLA for over 20 years. And it's a centrally located family where we're able to provide medical emergency air flights to all of the community here from this central location at SCLA. The aircraft you see behind me is an Augusta 109. It's a very fast helicopter, and we have 3 crew members. Of course, we have the pilot, we have a flight nurse, and a flight medic. These are highly trained clinicians converting this aircraft into what we call a critical care transport. Mercier is part of the Air Methods family. Air Methods is one of the largest air medical providers in the country. We operate over 300 bases with over 450 aircraft and 4,500 employees. Thank you for joining me on this tour.
Hello, High Desert Opportunity Summit. My name is Frank Casanos. Welcome to the High Desert Training Center at Southern California Logistics Airport. Here at the Victor Valley College High Desert Training Center, we focus on workforce training, apprenticeship programs, and customized solutions to bring together students and industry. We moved in March, a week before COVID shut down, and we've used that time to prepare to get the training center ready to start new programs and follow safety guidelines. And in July, we were excited to kick off our first training program here at the building. Welcome to one of our classrooms. This is the electronics lab. This equipment was lent to us by General Atomics as part of the apprenticeship program. And this is one of our labs where students get to do hands-on training and learn more about their trade. Hope you enjoyed the tour. We'd love to have you here in this classroom. Thank you for visiting Victor Valley College's High Desert Training Center. If you'd like to be part of the action, visit vvc.edu.
Hello, my name is Eric Schmidt. I'm the co-founder and president of Exquadrum, and we'd like to have you guys walk through our expansion here at SCLA. The entire building is being reutilized in many different ways. This portion of the building is where Exquadrum is going to call headquarters. On the other side of the building is where the Victor Valley College has put together the High Desert Training Center, a real opportunity for businesses like Exquadrum to work with the college and the College Foundation to integrate all of our objectives and to further the workforce and, quite frankly, the community of our valley. Here at our Forge facility, which stands for the Facility for Operations and Research for Game-Changing Experimentation, we have ample space to be able to test rockets, to simply verify that what comes out of our heads comes out of the rocket properly and that our math actually works. Did you know here at Southern California Logistics Airport, Squadron is developing and testing systems for hypersonic interceptors to protect our warfighters and our country. Thank you for joining me, Eric Schmidt, at Squadron here at SCLA to understand the things that we do, the technologies that we test, and what's happening in your backyard.
Thank you for joining us on our tour, High Desert Opportunity Summit. Hope you enjoyed it. Look forward to serving you in the future.
That was a terrific tour of SCLA, and of course I'm most fond about the ComAv aspect, but thank you for everyone who participated. So far we've seen a valuable economic update from Chris Thornburg about our region. We have heard from Victor Valley College President Dr. Dan Walden about how things are shaping up around the lake. We watched an in-depth discussion on the current and future state of our local K through 12 education, and all of this without moving from your computer. You won't want to go anywhere now because there are still a great many things to see. I'm proud to be a member of the Victor Valley College Foundation, and it's our mission to make friends and raise funds to help the Victor Valley College serve our community. We're so fortunate to have friends and partners that care about our community as much as we do, and you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who embodies that more than our friends at Desert Valley Hospital and Desert Valley Medical Group.
Hello, I'm Fred Hunter from Desert Valley Hospital. I'm the CEO here. We developed the 16 for Success program, which is the nursing program that we have been able to put together, which allows 64 students, 4 different cohorts over 4 different semesters, 16 each, which is why it's called 16 for Success. The gift actually that Dr. Reddy is giving the college is worth $2.4 million, and that is what's going to support these 64 students through the nursing school. What I try to focus on is making sure that the students who are selected for the program, that they know that they have an advocate, that we have a relationship. Because when they finish school and they know who I am and that I know who they are, then I think that the likelihood of them enjoying their job here, enjoying the hospital, Desert Valley, is actually going to solidify that in a much stronger way.
Hey, Fred.
Yeah, Randy.
Why did the chicken cross the road?
I don't know.
Because the other chicken behind it didn't know how to social distance.
Hi, everyone. Fred Hunter here. I'm so excited to be joined by Randy Castillo, St. Mary's CEO. I mean, Randy, I think that this pandemic has made all of us have to stop and pause and really look at what's going on in our hospitals. When was it that you had your first patient show up who had COVID?
Oh, sure. Great question. Early April. So a couple of weeks after we really started seeing the spike down the hill.
And even during that time, in early April, at Desert Valley, we did experience ours in mid-March. And but even prior to that time, though, and I believe you were doing the same thing as well as the other facilities up here, were taking the guidance from the CDC and the other agencies out there about trying to get ready for this pandemic. So, what did you do over at St. Mary's to prepare?
So again, this is the benefit of being part of a large system. We were able to learn from what was happening down the hill, which assisted us in our preparation for our first patient. So a lot of it was making sure that we had the appropriate PPEs, the right clinical protocols, and a lot of the education to our caregivers. So when we did see that first patient, we were ready. So we had the benefit of learning from others before seeing our first patient.
Absolutely. I think that even with myself at Desert Valley and the physicians practicing there, we had our eyes set on what was happening on the East Coast in New York City. Right. There were colleagues from our medical staff over there, and I believe that we have shared physicians that work between our facilities. Yeah. And those in New York City were actually became the experts who were sharing the information over here on the West Coast. And your comment about education, I think, is really key because the staff were afraid. I think that was really something that I don't want to say I was shocked by it, but I felt very compelled to want to address it and deal with it with the staff. Because when I had a housekeeper, when I asked her how she was feeling about this and tell me what was going in her mind, did she have what she needed to do what she was asked to do to keep the hospital clean. She said, "I'm fine, Mr. Fred." And I said, "That's not what I asked you, Conchita. Tell me how you're feeling." And she just broke down into tears.
Yes.
And she said, "I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm going to bring this home to my family." And that gave me an opportunity to refocus what we needed to do, which was to teach them about this disease, teach them about ways that you can create barriers to carrying it home.
Right. We suffered from the same anxiousness and uncertainty that you were feeling on your side. I think it's important for people in this community to understand that although it's naturally we compete against each other in normal occasions, early on, before the pandemic really hit the high desert, this community needs to understand that we were in constant connection.
Absolutely.
And that we shared what was happening in each of our hospitals to make sure that we could care for this community. There's a time and place for competition, but in the middle of a pandemic, it really comes down to the health of this community. And I think it's important for people to understand that. And Victor Valley was just as part of that conversation with us.
It was. What it takes to prepare the hospital when something like COVID-19 showed up, as it did, what really caused us to pause and look at what we were doing as compared to other emergencies that we may have experienced in the past. Most of the disasters that we've ever had in the past were related to earthquakes, and that's where we've always been prepared for and experts at, I believe, in our hospitals. When we had this come up, we then had to look to, and I think that I was really trying to depend on my emergency preparedness director to guide me with some advice that was going on out there within what the CDC was putting out there, what the HHS was putting out there, California Hospital Association, everyone that was trying to give guidance to our national hospitals on what is the best thing to do. And I think that what came down first and foremost was, do you have enough and adequate supply of PPE? And that became a worry for me immediately, in as much as you had to ask the question. And if you have to ask the question, then you get worried.
Right.
And so we, of course, then started to inventory what we did have available. But you mentioned it earlier in the conversation. Being part of a national system or a larger system, you can depend on your corporate structure to help provide you with some of those needs that you may not have access to if you were standalone.
Right.
But the other important key that we really had to put in place was to activate our emergency preparedness plan and make it a real time. We were in disaster mode.
Right.
And prepare for a surge of patients, even though we didn't really experience it right up front as they did in LA, even though LA's was delayed from that on the East Coast and then in the south of the United States. But we did eventually experience our own surge. Yeah. And I think that that was something that, because there was such a delay and as it moved across the country, and that we were able to, at a slow, I don't want to say a slower pace, but we had fewer numbers of our patients in the hospital who were diagnosed as positive. And they were manageable. And then when mid-June came, in July and August, which is when the high desert experienced our surge, we were actually ready, even though we were tired by then. So
it's interesting you bring that up, because even though it feels like it's getting easier, it's just becoming normal for us, we're still in a modified emergency preparedness mode, right? That's the beauty of being trained with FEMA. In preparing for a disaster, you upscale or downscale depending on the disaster. And now that it's becoming a little more, number one, the numbers are lower. So we fortunately, hopefully don't see a resurgence of another surge, but again, we'll be ready. But back to the original question, preparing for it, a lot of it, this goes back to the education. We did rely a lot on CDC, who, all the experts. And one of the things that we had to manage a lot was getting people to focus on the science and not listening to social media, not listening to all the hype and the rumors. And so that in itself, preparing for that surge was very difficult, because all of a sudden everybody's an expert. and you have to really focus everybody to the science, the evidence-based science of treating the virus.
And where we are today on October 1st as compared to early January and March when it was impacting the United States, it's yes and no answer. And I just want to say this with caution, in as much as the treatment modalities are here today. We know so much more today, and I don't say we as me or Randy, but the clinicians, the physician providers, because of all the research that has been done in these wonderful medical centers across the country in identifying what is working, what doesn't work. And treatments that were in place early on are no longer being used today. And so what is being used very frequently, and it is with very good outcomes, is the treatment using an antiviral called remdesivir, using convalescent plasma, and administration of steroids, and also inhaled steroids as well, and high flow oxygen, and trying to prevent intubation. And that is so opposite to what the physicians were thinking in the very beginning. Somebody's having airway and breathing issues, the first thing you want to do is to get them intubated. That means putting a tube down their throat into their lungs and then putting them on a machine. And it wasn't through, not for, it was for good purpose, but then they discovered that that was not helping. And that oxygenation level and all that, they were not able to treat it appropriately. So high flow oxygen is what they're doing today. And that is something that you can wear outside on your face, and it's just blowing into your lungs and it's helping you.
And just to add to that, it's important that the public understands that, even from the onset until today, best practices of how to care for COVID is being shared not only in the U.S., but from other countries that have experienced this. And, again, we're in the middle of a pandemic. It impacts everyone, right? And so we were learning a lot early on from Korea, from China, from all those that initially saw it a lot earlier than we did. And then getting those experts pretty much to come to an agreement what that looked like in terms of course of treatment. Yeah, COVID-19 has affected our hospital to provide services early on. We all did the same thing. We had to stop surgeries because, again, we were still trying to understand the science behind it. And so it was, whether it was good or bad, it was the right thing to do, right? But we had to quickly, as an industry, get everything back up and running. So I can tell you as of today, where all of our services are being provided. We're pretty much back to full strength, which then goes back to the Don't Delay Care campaign.
COVID-19 impacting the services at Desert Valley Hospital and the medical group, and I want to speak on the medical group side as far as this goes, because Randy has said exactly what happened in the hospitals, but even our medical offices, they closed because you're trying to keep the people from coming in, going out. We weren't sure exactly what was going on. Was this aerosol? Was this droplet precautions? What was it that needed to be done? And so those primary care patients who needed to see their doctor, they weren't seeing their doctor. That was put on pause. The cath lab, the operating room. Patients stopped referring themselves to the emergency room, as we mentioned earlier. And that in itself gave, I want to say it was a good experience as far as it gave us time to prepare. And that was just on the provider side, just being a hospital or a medical group. But those patients, as we learned later on, as we continued on this journey, there were negative outcomes occurring as well in the home, where somebody may have expired at home because they didn't call the ambulance when they should have. And it's those types of things that I think where we are today, we do understand, and it is about everything is open today. Come to the hospital, go to the emergency room, call your physician if you need anything. We're here for you. And do that in any of your hospitals, and call your doctor's offices, and they'll get you in.
Sometimes I think the community takes for granted our heroes. When you're working a 12-hour shift and wearing those PPEs, it's not a natural state, right? It's very different than if I were to just go to work, sit in my office, work 12 hours. those that have had to wear a mask can tell you after a couple hours, it hurts your ear just because it pulls. So think about doing that 12 hours a day, you know, working 3 shifts a week, 4 shifts a week, sometimes overtime, 5 shifts a week. And it is relentless. It just, because we're still in the pandemic. Fortunately, the numbers again are lower, but you know, again, that goes back to the appreciation, the gratitude of our heroes, and the community support, and whatever it is that we can support. I know they know it, and I think a combination of all that stays engaged, keeps them engaged.
Positions that I think that we will need most in the next 1 to 3 years, I mean, are, which, I mean, I don't want to say the pandemic has created this shortage, but nursing is always a high priority, with or without a pandemic, and there is a shortage of nurses across the country. The nursing population is aging, and so those are going to be retiring, and so that leaves a void. And I believe that the schools can't create and fill that hole quickly enough. Even with Victor Valley College and their nursing program, they do a phenomenal job, but there's still a shortage, even in the high desert with what we have. I think this pandemic, because this has really been a respiratory illness, I think respiratory therapists are somebody that are going to be very valuable. And they have been just rock stars when it comes to the care of these patients, because they too, they're putting themselves, and I want to say, in a different situation as with the nurse.
So the message to our community is, number one, heed the warning from the national agencies. This is a virus. It doesn't discriminate. There's no prejudice. It impacts old and young. Doesn't matter what sex, what religion. Heed the caution that's out there, that we've been saying since it started. Wash your hands. Wear a mask. Socially distance. Avoid large gatherings, especially in indoor settings.
Right now, I believe that the community has a responsibility to one another, and you have to listen to the science. Don't watch the news and listen to social media. You have to wash your hands. You must wear a face covering. You have to socially distance. Those are simple things that you can do to help prevent the spread of COVID. Once you get it, you need to come to the hospital. That's where the scary part is going to happen for all of you. And I really could only encourage all of you that if you don't want to do all of those things, you might get sick, and then you're going to be in the hospital. And that's where the hard part will start. And then you might pause and say, maybe I should have done what they've asked me to do. So, flu season is coming up. You need to get your flu shot. Everyone has to get the flu shot. It's a must. But again, listen to the science. Don't listen to your neighbor. You have to think for yourself, think for your family, and understand that this is real. If I could, I would invite you into the hospital and let you see what it looks like. But I can't do that. But I'm going to tell you, you don't want to come to the hospital and see what COVID looks like. It's not a pretty sight, and it's a scary experience. And if you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for your loved one that is going to be standing at that bedside when they are able to see you for just 10 minutes because there's limited visitation in the hospital. They're the ones who are going to be looking at you through their tears. So, stay healthy out there. We can do this. We are better than this disease. We can do this. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, it's always great seeing you, Fred. I know we've been overworked and we're pulled in every different direction, but it's nice to be able to see you in person, not through a monitor.
Not through a monitor and not through a text. But actually, yeah, I appreciate that. I agree with you. It's good to see you. It's good to know that we will continue to work together for this high desert, because that's what we're here for.
Absolutely.
And that's really all I have to say about what we have to do, our commitments.
Absolutely.
to this desert here.
Good morning. My name is Gwen Beddix, and I am with Alaska USA Federal Credit Union in the Business and Commercial Services Department. We are very pleased to sponsor this year's High Desert Opportunity Summit. Whether you're working remotely or working in the office, be sure to protect your desk with your Alaska USA coaster. Coming up next will be local updates on our transportation, and I certainly hope you enjoy the rest of today's program.
Brightline West is a high-speed passenger rail system that is redefining train travel in America, connecting California to Las Vegas through multiple inner-city projects. Brightline West is designed to take cars off the road and offer millions of travelers a green way to travel between one of the country's largest cities and the entertainment capital of the world. As the first privately funded passenger rail system in more than a century, Brightline proved that Americans were ready to get out of their cars and embrace high-speed rail. On its first system in Florida, Brightline carried over 1 million passengers in its first year alone. Brightline West will build upon this successful model. Our zero-emission trains will be powered by carbon-free sources and capable of top speeds of 200 miles per hour, making it the greenest and fastest transit in America. Brightline West will design stations that will generate less water and energy, and the company will pledge to plant a tree for every completed ride. Backed by Fortress Investment Group, a global firm with over $30 billion of infrastructure investments, Brightline has committed to build this $7 billion project that will move over 10 million people a year. Brightline West will connect a heavily congested corridor that will cover 260 miles and be constructed in the middle of the I-15 right-of-way, turning a 5 or 6 hour drive into a convenient and easy train trip taking less than 3 hours. Over 50 million people each year suffer the misery of traffic congestion and the inconvenience of air travel between Southern California and Las Vegas. Too far to drive and too short to fly, travelers risk weather and traffic delays along this notoriously difficult and precarious corridor. Brightline West will offer a premium, safe, and stress-free experience that will take 3 million cars off the road and reduce emissions by 400,000 tons of CO2 each year. The journey begins in Los Angeles Union Station. Through a partnership with Metrolink, our trains will connect 40 miles to our Rancho Cucamonga station. In each station, guests will recognize our strong focus on hospitality, even being able to check in to their final destination. Moving 50 miles northeast over the Cajon Pass, Brightline West's next station is in Victor Valley, a major connection point for north and southbound travel. Once the train departs the Victor Valley station, riders travel with ease through the mostly barren desert territory for 170 miles. Distracted drivers and windy, uneven roads have led the I-15 to be named one of the deadliest roadways in America. Furthermore, given the highway is mostly 2 lanes on either side, its frequent bumper-to-bumper traffic creates frustration and delays for visitors traveling to and from Las Vegas. Our high-speed train avoids this by whisking by traffic gridlock at up to 200 miles per hour. Approaching our terminus in Las Vegas, passengers will arrive on world-famous Las Vegas Boulevard, minutes from the most recognizable hotels and casinos, as well as the new Raiders Allegiant Stadium. Passengers will have easy last-mile access to all aspects of Las Vegas. Once completed in 2024, Brightline West will elevate the way we live, work, play, and travel.
Hello everyone, my name is Shane Massoud. I am the Governmental and Legislative Affairs Liaison for Caltrans District 8, serving both San Bernardino and Riverside counties. I wanted to take a moment to thank the Victor Valley College Foundation, as well as the Office of County Supervisor Robert Lovingood, for hosting the High Desert Opportunity Summit, as well as inviting Caltrans to participate. Today I'd like to share 2 projects with you. The first is Caltrans is excited to announce an innovative transportation project, a high-speed rail passenger system being built between the towns of Apple Valley near Victorville and Las Vegas, Nevada. This project will consist of 170 miles, of which 135 miles will be built here in Southern California, specifically San Bernardino County. This project will be entirely privately funded by Brightline Express West. It's anticipated that this journey, which is usually 3 hours plus, will be reduced to 90 minutes. This project will be built entirely within the center median of Interstate 15. Once this project is completed, we are excited to announce that it's estimated to reduce carbon emissions by 300,000 metric tons. That's approximately 65,000 vehicles being taken off the roadway each year. Additionally, while this project is under construction, Brightline Express West anticipates creating 10,000 jobs, and after construction, an additional 500 new jobs. Also, conversations are underway to extend this system to Rancho Cucamonga. Brightline Express West, Caltrans, and the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority are currently having these conversations. Another project I'd like to discuss with the group is our State Route 58 Kramer Junction project. This was a $242 million project to redesign, widen the State Route 58 and US 395 interchange. As many of you are aware, traffic volumes of oversized vehicles have significantly increased in the region. So our team, we had to redesign, widen, realign, as well as create a new interchange to improve the movement of goods and services, enhance safety, as well as mitigate any kind of traffic incidences. This project began in 2018, and we are excited to announce that we anticipate this project being complete later this year. Again, my name is Shane Massoud. I'm the Governmental and Legislative Affairs Liaison for Caltrans District 8. I can be reached at Shane, S-H-A-N-E, Massoud, M-A-S-S-O-U-D, at dot.ca.gov if you have any questions. Thank you.
Hey everybody, my name is Sarah Krieg and I'm with the Shared Shutter. I create content, photos and films for brands of all sizes, from national brands like Huggies and BuzzFeed, Scary Mommy, and Motherly, all the way to businesses like Tanyan Coffee, local staples here in the high desert, the San Bernardino County Fair. I love working with our local businesses here in the high desert, and for that reason, I went ahead and included $100 off your first brand shoot with me. So anybody here who's attending a High Desert Opportunity Summit today, if you have any interest in working together, I would love to help tell your brand stories, whether that's through creative content on social media, photographs, films. I'm your girl. In the meantime, I hope you enjoy the conference. I hope you're loving all the videos we've made for you, and I've made you a very special one. It's my absolute favorite thing to do, and I hope you enjoy it. Without further ado, I give you the High Desert Opportunity Summit's 2020 blooper reel. You're welcome.
There better not be a blooper reel, I'll get you.
Oh.
Welcome aboard, High Opportunity Desert Summit.
Ooh, good job, High Desert Opportunity Summit.
What did I say?
High Opportunity.
High Desert Opportunity Summit. It's a mouthful, tongue twister there.
It is.
Hello, High Desert Opportunity what? Summit. Hello, High Desert. Jesus Christ.
Please don't make me say that again.
Do you want me to like move my arms? Get crazy with it?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I do want you to move your arms. Do one.
I need alcohol. Don't put that on the camera.
To provide, nope, I've lost it. Can we do it one more time and then can you actually go in the door?
Sure, and I'm gonna lock it.
Okay. Wow.
Did I do it?
Look at you.
You nailed it.
Good job.
Okay.
You nailed it.
Okay. No, I won't say thrive. We're not just surviving, we're thriving.
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I'm John. Oh God, this is gonna be hard for you guys. Sorry.
Kayleen from Pretty Comfy. I didn't say my last name. Okay.
Oh, awkward.
Sorry. You can come on in.
We're just not surviving. What did I say?
Thanks for stopping by, Sorry.
No, it's good. You came out with energy.
Did you know Did you know? Did you know?
That ComAv is the founding member of AFRA, which is the Sorry.
Easier said than done.
And now you know. Cut that out, okay?
Did you know that when Georgia Air Force Base closed back in 1992, our economy, our local region lost close to 8,500 jobs? Since the city of Victorville has taken over the leadership in developing Southern California Logistics Airport, we've actually recreated close to 4,000 new jobs. SCLA is the largest job center in the high desert.
Hi, I'm Sam Groundlenard with Southwest Gas, and we are grateful for the opportunity to sponsor the High Desert Opportunity Summit. We're coming up on colder weather, and I hope you can enjoy your Southwest Gas mug. As you use it, and that drink warms you up and helps you feel better, would you please take a minute to think about a friend or a family member that you can reach out to and make their day better? Small and simple acts of kindness make the community around us better and complement the great efforts of this summit to bring business opportunities to the high desert and improve life for all of us. May you each be blessed. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kirsten Acosta, Executive Director of the Victor Valley College Foundation. And I want to thank you for attending our virtual summit today. For over 45 years now, the Victor Valley College District Foundation has been giving opportunities to people with dreams, and we are thankful to our sponsors who made this year's High Desert Opportunity Summit possible. Even in a year like 2020, we have partners who are focused on what really matters. Now on to our next speaker. Since he first took office in 2012, First District Supervisor Robert Levingood has been a strong supporter of education, training our workforce, and small business. We will certainly miss his leadership on the county dais as he leaves office this year. And now, for a few words of reflection from Supervisor Robert Levingood.
Hi, I'd like to thank High Desert Opportunity for giving me this opportunity to share some comments and reflective thoughts of what will be the last 8 years. When this journey started, I had a very logical reason, and I shared that reason was the fact that I had twin teenage daughters that were really becoming teenagers. So I decided to pursue elected office so I could, one, get out of the house. And that, all kidding aside, was not the reason that I ran. I ran with an opportunity to serve the community and to work into areas where in the past I had pointed fingers and I had complained and I had sat around saying things should be done a little differently in the way that I believe would make government more responsive to the constituents. And that's the reason that I ran. So when I look at this, I was 54, turning 55, and now I'm 62, turning 63. It's been a great opportunity to serve. Really, I look at the individuals that work with me. I look at the staff, District Director Regina, Chief of Staff Lori, Veronica, Susan, Don, Tammy, Ron, Tony, Phil. I can just simply say they're the individuals who have really addressed the thousands of issues on behalf of constituents over 8 years. And I got to share with you, it comes with a great honor, but also it's difficult at times because you want to be able to help everyone and we can't always have the answer. But I feel we keyed on things that were important in the community. I look at the faith-based church, bringing the groups together to talk about and move forward with the idea of recidivism, how we improve lives and pathways for young adults starting in high school. There's a great effort that's being led moving forward. Matt Wells is doing that, bringing career pathways. Our colleges, our local junior colleges, really opening opportunities, again, from high school to a living wage. And that's the difference, because when we know and we study and we understand that, if we go back 25 years ago, we were talking about 30,000 daily commuters. Well, today we're talking about 90,000 daily commuters. And we need to pull those folks off the freeways. We need to strengthen our community, and we believe that with projects that have been started, we're going to succeed in that. We really are. As I'm saying, Victor Valley College has stepped up with an amazing program. They're kicking off the technical trade program. That's going to lead more successful pathways, no different than the AMP program, allowing people, one, that are born and raised here to have a career and a living wage and raise successful family in affordable housing market. We're working aggressively with Brightline Express train that's going to go now from Vegas into the Inland Empire, into Ontario, and that's being done, one, as I've always said, private partnerships, the private companies leading the way. The best thing I hope I walk away that government's learned, it's the private sector they need to be most responsive to, because those individuals are responsible to their shareholders and to their investors, and there's not time to waste for them to get their projects completed. I'd really like to talk about the importance of our faith-based organizations, the value they bring to a community. I think of Pastor Denson, Pastor Graham, Pastor Earl, Pastor Beersley, what their churches, what they've done, Pastor Martin, the outreach in the community really improving and striving to keep families together, to bring strength and opportunity to young adults cannot be understated with the value, and we must continue to always value that relationship in a way that'll only improve our community every time. Public-private partnerships. When I look at VVC and their new technical training program, again, it's the private industry that's leading the way in a much-needed career pathways. And it's so important that we keep those members, one, at the table, in front of the table, and directing what needs to be accomplished. They understand their requirements, let them lead. They are leaders. When I look at Mitsubishi, when I look at Squadron, when I look at Sterling, I look at these groups that have stepped forward and they're showing us the pathway. So let's stay out of the way and let them succeed, and they'll bring us along. And I think the other thing we really have to work with is our nonprofits. That is the safety net that many times is far more effective in administering the program and helping families and those in crisis. We have to strengthen those relationships, provide them the financial support, because at the end, from a better way to millionaire minds, they give us measurables every time of effective programs. It's great to see SBCTA working in step with Express West when the connectivity from Las Vegas to Ontario. That's a critical pathway, and then continuing to the west to meet with LA County on the 220 corridor. I'm encouraged just to see them move forward so rapidly. I see the electeds in our community standing up to embrace them. We just have to keep that moving forward just to improve further the quality of life of the residents of the high desert. You know, it's truly been just a great honor. I can't understate the value of the opportunity, and thank you for your trust. We engaged, I believe, as an office on behalf of our constituents. I think sometimes it was obviously frustrating because we weren't able to always agree, but we took and gave our daily best to each moment and opportunity. And it's really the team that surrounded me that helped me do so much. So to each of them and their families, I want to thank them, and I want to thank each of you and your families for having that trust and allowing me to be your public representative. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Lovingood, for the service to the 1st District. We appreciate the work that you've done, and we wish you well in your next chapter. Our community is strong because of outstanding people and organizations that focus day in and day out on striving to make things better. Our local economic outlook is bright because we have a multitude of industries that are developing and growing right here in the high desert. Our workforce is becoming increasingly better trained and prepared to seize the opportunities that businesses bring. 2020 has not been like any other year, and that's okay. This is our opportunity to focus on what really matters.
High Desert Opportunity Summit. We have the community. We have the opportunity. we have the focus.
I want to thank our presenting sponsor, Southern California Logistics Airport, and all our sponsors who made the High Desert Opportunity Summit possible. And thank you to the committee who planned and organized our virtual experience. And thank you for joining us today. Now it's time to ask yourself, how are you finding focus in 2020?